Candid camera already. Okay, it's the appointed hour, so I want to open this Fifth Ranch Homes Homeowner Association Board of Directors meeting at 2 o'clock on the spot. And we'll start this off by the consent agenda. I think we've explained that enough, what the consent agenda is, and it kind of abbreviates some of the things that need to be abbreviated. So, Tom?
Good afternoon, everyone. There are two items on the consent agenda today. One is the approval of the draft minutes of our August 26th executive session in the morning and the open meeting that afternoon. And the second agenda item is the duty to inspect for the period conducted as of September 19th. So with those two recommendations for the consent agenda, I move their approval.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Just two items I would
Okay.
add. In conjunction with the mitigation of the villa, the $2.4 million assessment, we have completed, as of the end of this week, both the interior, exterior, excavating, and landscaping of the villas. And we approved at the board meeting the next section of the mitigation, which is looking at the garage where there has been water damage, water accumulation during the rain period. We approved at our last meeting the addition of 3 sump pumps to be provided by Sequoia, and they're beginning their work this week.
Is that it, Tom?
Yeah, that is, I'm sorry.
Okay. So any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the consent agenda approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Now we go into the treasurer's report and have Gary tell us how we're doing financially.
Okay, I'm gonna hold on to it this time, so hopefully it'll work a little better than it did last time. So we've already got the first slide up, reconstruction. So this has to do with that 2-year-long reconstruction for the water damage to the villas and other areas. You'll remember that we had 2 emergency assessments totaling $4.2 million. Had some income on that. We had the expenses, services, so on, you go down the line. And as of September 20th, we're at $832,000 still left in the account. And as Tom just mentioned, we do have the one major item left, which is the garage, and a few other landscaping items to clear up. But we're quite confident that there's enough money in there that we won't have to have any more assessments regarding this project. What's the next one? The ERC, I believe.
Oh.
So for those of you that may not be familiar with the terminology, the ERC fund is the Cliff, what does that stand for?
Employee
retention
retention credit that was passed by Congress during the pandemic.
Okay.
Oh. So it stands for employee retention credit. It was one of a couple of benefits that Congress passed during the pandemic because a number of employers were forced to close shop, close their doors, and Congress said, well, maybe if we give them a little bit of money, that will help, and then keep their doors open or at least continue to pay their employees, and that's what it was.
And though he didn't mention it, thanks to Cliff's hard work and perseverance, we received a total of $1,243,000 in credits from the federal government. Now, since it's getting a little bit complicated, I thought I'd have a chart just showing where all this goes. So we did transfer $1 million to Raymond James, which where it can earn a higher rate of return and be totally separate from the operations. We left $243,000 in operations as a cash buffer, and I'll tell you how that came in handy on the next slide. So then regarding the amount we transferred to Raymond James, there's the $1 million, there's interest it's earned already, and we have one disbursement so far. We've taken $100,000 and put it into this new fund that we set up, the Catastrophic Events Fund. So this basically has to do with the study that we did on earthquake readiness and earthquake insurance. So we were able to calculate the amount of insurance that we are getting for earthquake to make it more useful for us, more helpful, because what we had before was highly unlikely that we would ever receive any benefit from it. And in doing so, we saved about $130,000 a year in premium. So one of the suggestions from the earthquake expert that we had was that there are things that we can do to make ourselves more earthquake protected. And the other thing we thought we would do is to establish a fund so that over time, this would be not the reserve account, this would be a separate fund, and it would be available for funding of any catastrophic loss that was not covered by insurance. It's not much to begin with, but we expect that over time it will grow to a significant amount. We are going to put in the savings every year from the premium we don't pay to the insurance company, and it will be invested in a way to return a higher long-term return. So that's the plan, and this is essentially the first contribution to that fund. And we are going to move in shortly. We'll be moving in the $130,000 or so of the savings from the earthquake insurance. So that's the start of that. And so we have a balance now of $904,000 in that account. So let's turn to operations now. So these may be familiar to those of you that come to these meetings regularly, but up here we have on January 1st, we have our cash balance in our operating account. Cash balance in the reserve account, and this wasn't, of course, in January, but this is the reconstruction account. So cash flow from operations end up balance on August 31st, and you're thinking, what? How could we end up so much cash in operations? The reason is because that includes the money that we got from the ERC. So if you subtract that money from this balance on August 31st, that doesn't look quite as good, does it? 40,000 negative. And that's one reason why we elected to keep some of this cash from the ERC in the operations as a cash buffer. So that if during the course of the month, when we have payments over one period and then we have income in another period, we could run negative from time to time during the month. In fact, we ended up the month, we would have been negative, except for the fact that we had this $243,000 that we left in there. Reserves, Start with 2,400,000, we're down to up to 2 million, almost 3 million. That has a lot to do with the cash flow from the reserve account this year. We're running, is kind of typical, we're running the expenses from into the reserve account a little bit later in the year than you might expect. So this amount will start going down through the rest of the year as we start more and more projects get completed. The reconstruction account, I mentioned earlier, we're quite confident we're going to end that whole project with a positive cash balance. Now this is going to take a little explaining. So this is operations. This is everything except dining. So the month of August, this is the revenue we got mainly from our regular assessments. We automatically subtract the amount each month that we're putting into the reserve account. So this is what was left over for operations for the month of August. These were the expenses for the 4 departments: maintenance, resident services, administration. Total expenditures, 934. Net, 159,000 negative. Now, that doesn't look good. There are reasons for that. One reason is you see here 60,000 negative in maintenance. And there were some things in maintenance that contributed to that. One was landscape projects that were supposed to be done in March were actually done in August. Another one, which is kind of troubling, is that we spent $7,900 in August on pest control. Moles, skunks, you name it, we've got it. We also have $7,900 in the month for overage for our gas usage, which is probably could be attributed largely to the weather, but we're also taking a look at some issues regarding the gas meters, so we'll know more about that shortly. So that's the story for the month of August, okay? What happened to dining services? They're usually right on budget. I can tell you that not only for dining, mostly for dining, but for the entire operation, we have one of those strange months again. The month of August had 3 payrolls instead of 2. So if you get paid twice a month, every month is pretty much the same. But if you get paid every 2 weeks, then you're going to have 2 or 3 months of the year that are going to have 3 payrolls in them. And that's what happened in the month of August. And it hit dining pretty hard. In fact, you could say that the entire negative balance there was due to the aberration in the monthly payroll. And that's going to work itself out by the end of the year. So other than that, dining is doing remarkably well with their budget, and we think that they're going to end up the year exactly as predicted. I was just going to mention the census. So we did use, in August, we did use 301 people, members that pay into the dining assessment, and the budget was 300. So it's good to have more people here because then you divide the cost by, you do get an increased cost of usage, but the extra revenue is helpful in terms of dividing it out among everybody. So this is just a summary of the two charts I just showed you. You have the budget for operations, dining, and the total of the two, 232,000 negative, which is largely explainable, and I don't think it's a signal of anything that we have to be concerned about by the end of the year. We should have a much better result, I predict, for September, because that'll just be a two payroll period, not 3. If you've been to these meetings regularly, you'll know that I've been talking a lot about the cycle during the year, and we usually start off the year with positive months. For one thing, we didn't have the big insurance expenditures. Our insurance doesn't kick in until April. And just to put it in perspective, the insurance premium is getting close to $1 million a year. So that's a big item for us. So you'll see we start in January, positive, then a little bit even, then more negative and negative, and then you come down to here. Not a good looking trend, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to end up better than this by the end of the year. So here we are on a year-to-date basis. It doesn't look so bad. We're only 81,000 negative on a year-to-date basis, which is all the more reason why I feel we're going to do fine by the end of the year, unless Scott has a different view. Okay. Are there any, do you want to ask any questions about the budget, or should we just wait to the end of the,
Any questions from the board about the budget? Tom's got one.
or I'm sorry, the financials, not the budget?
Yeah, I have one question, Jerry. The insurance coverage for the flood upstairs, I know we have a $100,000 deductible, and we had a gross estimate of maybe $200,000 of expenses, in which we're asking the insurance company to reimburse us. Take me through the cash flow of how they provide. Do we submit bill by bill, or do we wait till the end? Have they accepted our tendered claim?
We've already submitted a claim, and which they have acknowledged, and they will be reimbursing us after we've met the deductible. So we have the 100. Sorry, my throat. We have the deductible, the 100,000. Oh, thank you.
I didn't mean to choke you up.
No. And, let's see here. We will be paying the bills ourselves until that deductible, and then when the deductible has been satisfied, we'll send them the evidence of that, and then they'll start paying the balance. So roughly speaking, we don't have the exact numbers right up to date, but roughly speaking, we have 1 million deduct.
Yeah, let me offer a little color commentary on this too. We blew through that $100,000 deductible when they did their remediation work. That was a $150,000 bill. So the contractor and our adjuster are in direct communications, and so they tender the bills directly to the insurance carrier. When that $150,000 bill came, we paid it in full, $150,000 out of reserves. Then we received $50,000 back from the insurance agency, so we received $50,000. That net neutral of $100,000 is how we paid our deductible. And with the additions of the carpet being about $80,000 and some other ancillary costs, we're looking at a $200,000 project, and with $100,000 with our deductible, so the insurance would cover the $100,000. Now, they're still pressing we're pressing each other on trying to get the highway patrol police report for the driver that initiated all of this, so there's still a chance that we could subrogate this claim that actually can maybe limit our loss, big picture, and we're really hoping for that. But at this point, we're in great communication with the carrier and we're getting our money with every expense that we pay.
Thank you.
Other questions by the board? This is important enough. Any questions by any of the residents at this point, rather than save it for the open forum? Victoria,
Who was the first one to hit
just a
the,
second.
Yeah, if everybody can always wait for the microphone, that'll be helpful.
who was the person who caused all this trouble, they hit the PG&E installations?
Yeah, I don't have a name to share with the community, but there was a driver that had an accident with the PG&E substation that resulted in the domino effect of how we got here.
But
So-
doesn't live here in the community, what
No.
is it? Is it,
No, it was
Okay.
not a community member.
Other questions? Cliff, you're supposed to know all these things, Cliff.
I might just ask Scott just to update the residents as to when the new carpet may be installed.
Well, we'll do that at the open forum, Cliff. But this is just having to do with Gary's presentation. Okay, thank you, Bill. Gary, I will ask a question then. We have $832,000 left from the $4.2 million assessment. How much of that do you think will be, have we got an estimate on the garage repairs?
I believe we have an estimate on the garage, but not an estimate for the total, but for the garage, it's $120,000 something.
Yeah, we actually got up to 200,000. We originally projected 250,000, so we are at 200 with that. We still have a lot of bills to settle for the work that Gary mentioned was completing, so I would pencil that to be another couple $100,000. So I would imagine about 4 to 5 still to be paid, which would result in some 6 figures at the end. And we knew that we wanted to be conscious of not having to go back to the community, and it sounds like we really nailed that projection. But the Finance Committee and the board will then evaluate what do we do with the disposition of the excess.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. Now it will be the Scott Newman show for the next 10 or 15 minutes. He's got several subjects that we've asked him to be the presenter on. So
I'm gonna bring my water up too, Gary. Good idea. I'm gonna boot up a new PowerPoint presentation, and while I do that, I think we could all give Gary a round of applause for doing what he just did, because he does this on a monthly basis. And Gary, I don't know, when you first moved into Smith Ranch Homes, you thought you'd be crafting PowerPoint presentations for the community, thinking you're probably retired. So can we give Gary a round of applause? And also kudos to Daria. You're now part of the team and working with Gary on those PowerPoints, so thank you for doing that. Okay, so I drew the short end of the stick. I'm here to talk about insurance. And I'm gonna say, I could say 10 words, I'm gonna choose to say 5 words, because Glenn told me specifically, keep it simple. Now Cliff, there'll probably be a thing or two you wanna add to this, and I understand, but I wanna keep it simple because it's really setting us up to save the date to learn more information about this program. I'm here to talk about Modus Insurance, and let me first start by saying I am not a licensed insurance agent. So everything I say, please understand that I'm not a professional in the field, and you always want to contact your insurance specialist as well too. Gary already mentioned about a lot of the insurance programming that we did last month about a seismic evaluation. The board made some substantive changes to our insurance policy at the recommendation of the Finance Committee. And one of the major programs was to subscribe to Modus Insurance Program with a strong recommendation that the residents will consider buying earthquake insurance under this carrier. At the same time too, we need to hurry up and share some information because Modus, M-O-T-U-S, has a great website, and I'd ask you to either write it down if you have a pen or think about this, and I'm also going to put this in a communication that's going to go to your cubby boxes today. But modusins.com has great information to give you some cursory overview and some weeds to dig into. Darby, I think I'm gonna borrow that PowerPoint slider if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay. So some of you are familiar with open enrollments. Medical benefits can be like this. There's an open enrollment period for the insurance, the Modus insurance. And while we're really excited that we've adopted this program, the effective date is October 1. And originally, the group wanted to accelerate the deadline much earlier than October 25th. But there is a window of time for you to learn about Modus, talk to your insurance agent, talk to your family, talk to the community as well. But by October 25th, you'll decide, Modus is for me, or no, it's not. That's also not the last time. There is an annual open enrollment period, so you can adopt in again. So, but they just have to be able to get people in so that the program can kind of take off. I want to share some of this information, but most importantly, this is not keeping it simple. This is, though, the announcement today is to save the date on Thursday. Does anybody have a doctor's appointment on September 25th, Thursday at noon? Okay. So far, so good. So, this is not the only time, but Modus has created a dedicated webinar for Smith Ranch Homes homeowners. They're based out of New York, so there will be not anybody here on premises, but it's dedicated to you, so it's not just a rinse, wash, and repeat webinar, and it'll be also interactive, so participants can ask questions to the presenters. Some members of the finance committee and the board of management have met with Modus. They present things in an easy to understand format on a potentially complicated subject of insurance and limits and coverages, etc. The good news is that webinar will also be recorded, and we're going to distribute this webinar via email to the community and also have it on our website. But wait, that's not all. We are going to do another on-site presentation of this webinar with finance committee, management, and maybe a member of the board or two in this room the week of October 8th. So we're going to have another go around to share information if you have any questions. But also, the September 25th date, I forgot to mention, we're going to open up this room in this exact arrangement. So if you don't want to log in at home, don't really know how to work with Zoom and other things like that, we will have the presentation here so that you can see it on the big screen as well. I think I've covered the open enrollment informational sessions, but in your cubby box today, we're going to print out all of these slides. Izzy, you didn't know this, but we're going to print out all these slides, and we're going to get them to your cubby box and do a mass email. So all this information, don't worry about having to scribble things down. It'll be waiting for you. But what is Modus? And it essentially covers you if you want additional coverage outside of what Smith Ranch Homes provides the association. And we made a change. We had a $45 million limit, and we changed it to a $20 million limit based on a seismic evaluation saying we're built pretty for truck tough. We can withstand a thing, so we don't need the coverage, especially for the deductible that we were paying for. So on this chart, just to kind of keep it simple, Glenn, there's a deductible that the association would pay. And let's say this is a $55 million loss. The master insurance coverage would provide $20 million, but that still leaves another $30 million, let's say, that the association would have to cover for their damages. For the homeowner, that could result in a special assessment. That could come in a lot of different costs to you, and there's insurance that would provide coverages for you in case those alternatives had to be addressed by the board. They've done a comparison of Modus to what we're all pretty familiar with, which is the CEA, the California Earthquake Authority. And our insurance broker, who's sometimes shy about making a real strong stand on opinions, she did say, dollar for dollar, what you get for Modus compared to the CEA policies, it's a significant improvement. Here is a summary, just a sample, if you will, if you wanted to get a $600,000 coverage. What does that mean? Come on Thursday. But the annual premium is $2,000 versus $1,500. Okay, so you're paying more, but you get significant additional coverages than you would if you were instead with the CEA. When you go through this open enrollment, there's a number of options that you can consider. There's the coverage for a potential special assessment, and also any interior coverages in case things break within your unit. Now, we know you're responsible from the walls in. Please remember that. The unfinished walls in, that's your responsibility. But there's coverage limits that you can choose, different levels. But then there's also an option where you could buy for a small dollar amount additional coverage for loss of use or coverage contents. And one that I think the Finance Committee and many thought was, wow, there's an additional option where you can pay down the deductible of the association's insurance program. This, if anything, proved to be a real valuable consideration from the Finance Committee. The broker kind of jumped out of her seat when she saw it too. This is a real nice add-on. So far be it for me to try to explain Modus and all of the benefits, also the concerns and the questions you may want to ask yourself. And that's why we really want to get this date on your radar, and really we encourage you to attend one way or another. And if something does pop up, this webinar will be able to explain it further, and then we'll see you again on the week of October 8th. So I'm going to pause because I'm trying to keep it at a level that I think we all agreed upon. But Gary, members of the board, Cliff, anybody, are there any questions or comments that we want to add on to what I'm sharing?
The webinar will be on 1981.
It'll be via Zoom, so it'll not be
Via Zoom, okay.
Now, we can try to play around with the camera, maybe present it that way as an option, but I'm not going to rely on it because I haven't dialed it in. But they have a personal Zoom link, if you're familiar with Zoom. The email that we send to you will make this a hyperlink. You should be able just to click through. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you to consider this option.
Questions?
Let me just add a couple things to what Scott has said, if I may. I mean, the Finance Committee has spent a tremendous amount of time reviewing this, and many thanks to Bruce and to Jerry to start this and to help investigate Modus. But for those that are considering earthquake insurance, we believe that Modus is a superior program to the California Earthquake Authority. And that's why we are recommending, if you are considering it, you ought to investigate this program. And we'll try to have good answers for you on Thursday and beyond.
Better to hear that from up here than from me up here, I think. So thank you, Cliff.
Scott, thank you. And you did keep it simple enough.
Okay. All right. Well, let's continue that, Glenn, if you don't mind, because I have a couple of action items. I also have a GM report, but yeah, I'm kind of pinging back against the speaker here. But I do want to go to a couple of action items for reserves. Let me grab my book here. So our action items come by way of the Finance and Maintenance Committees. And reserves, as Gary mentioned, sometimes we're a little slow to the draw on getting some of these expenses done. I will say our fire alarm system was just paid for $300,000, maybe $320,000. So that right there has already eaten into that significant cash flow that we described earlier. All right, Ford, if you don't mind giving me the page number, 51. Perfect. Okay. 2 mics and a PowerPoint shifter. This is multitasking. Okay, so we've heard a lot about North Star. We're all excited for North Star. Karen cannot wait for North Star. Aria is excited. November 1 is where we're still shooting for that. With the software component comes hardware and cabling to run that hardware. So in our original budgeting, we had $100,000 for the North Star software update, and we nailed it. We really got our number that we wanted. We also didn't know last year what that hardware component was really going to look like, and so our allowance is not there for this next step. But for dining services to really operate, we need additional hardware, which replaces the existing printers that we use for your checks. We are looking at some peripherals for some of the staff to use. We're not going to deploy it site-wide yet, but we are going to look at some of the staff play with that. But most importantly, we have kitchen display units that'll be behind the line with our chefs so that we can communicate directly that way too. To be able to run all those pieces, you also need cabling to go and connect to our server on the 3rd floor and communicate to the bar and lounge. So there's a lot of improvements. And the number that I'm coming with is not a fun number. It's $103,000. It's frustrating to fund, but it's a necessary component of this project. Tom Allen, our tech consultant who's been working with us throughout this project, has been working with KLH Consulting, our IT team, and also our electrician of choice. And they've gone through this project up and down, left and right, and have really tried to dial in the number as best they can. We have KLH Consulting purchasing all of the hardware so that they can add their wholesale purchase component to limit the costs. But I'm also happy to say that this is really more of an authorization expense because frankly, I had to jump on this earlier to be able to meet our November 1 deadline, that I authorized this work to go ahead, but I do need some funding authorization from the board. What I've found is that the cabling project had been going on all for the last week and a half or two. You maybe saw an electrician van called Rocky Top. Okay. They've been here. It seems like their estimates were way over what they actually incurred, so I do expect us to spend much less than what we're presenting today, but I would at least like the authorization not to exceed the $103,305 so that we have the runway if necessary. But the good news is that it should be better than what I'm asking you to approve today. The Finance Committee reviewed this and determined that this is an appropriate reserve expense, so I'll pass it to the board for any questions or potential action.
I'll move that we authorize the expenditure of $103,000, up to $103,305.
Not to exceed. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Karen, you have anything to add to this? Karen has been unbelievably busy with this for the last 2-3 months. Just totally inundated into it, and we appreciate her efforts. And the pay was good.
Yeah, I think I got lunch one day. I don't remember. No, other than I think it's exciting to watch our dining team look at their processes, and what this equipment will do is bring us a little bit closer to what happens when you go to a restaurant. In that our servers will have their new terminals to go to input the orders. The kitchen will have their display units, and it's a little bit piece by piece, but we will get there. So I'm excited. I did not get in the middle of the Rocky Hill quote and things like that, but it's a very necessary part of North Star to keep going.
Oh, we thank you. Okay, any other discussion before we go up?
Another question.
Okay.
I'm a little confused. If we had known a year ago today that we would need approximately $100,000 for these items, would we have put it in the operating budget? I'm concerned that we're using the reserve account as a piggy bank, and so dissuade me of my concern, please.
Gary, you want to respond to that?
Well, at Cliff's initiative, would have been a year ago, 2 years ago, we expanded the definition of the assets that go into the reserve account, because a lot of our assets are individually not that expensive, but collectively quite expensive. So we opened up the reserve account to include these smaller individual but still expensive items. We are still committed to maintaining a threshold reserve of 1.5 million in the reserve account. And we're certainly not feeling any pressure about that right now. We do look at it over a long-term period, a 30-year horizon, and won't hesitate to increase the reserves if we need to, but so far we don't feel that need.
And one of the add-ons to that policy change that Gary mentioned is that new additions up to $150,000 would then be funded out of reserves. Anything over $150,000, the board would then have that determination, either special assessment, reserves, or an alternative function to.
Cliff, you as chair of the Finance Committee, do you have anything to add?
Mike's coming.
You usually do.
No, as Scott said it, so what we said is if it's a new asset that the association is acquiring, and this cabling, monitors, printers are new assets that we're not replacing anything existing, we're getting new. And so we established a policy that if the total of that new asset was under $150,000, as Scott said, we would fund that out of reserves. And that's one of the reasons we maintain that 1.5 million threshold is for these types of expenditures. But we will look at reserves in more depth with presentation of the budget in November.
Yep.
In November, and that will be looked at as part of that. So I think Finance Committee is quite comfortable with the process and with the procedures. But to answer your question, Tom, that's what we decided upon, and we think it's prudent to move forward with that policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the board? Then I'll ask for a motion. Have I got a motion in a second? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Scott, you have another reserve item?
Yeah, this one probably is in the view of the residents, whether they know it or not. The steel doors within this clubhouse are not included in reserves because we expect these steel doors. An example is right behind Sarah, the exit doors, the ones right here. They should last the life of the building. But the mechanisms, good job, Sarah. The mechanisms inside the doors don't last forever. And if you can think about the doors as you go into the garage, notwithstanding the automatic openers, I've had some conversations about those lately as well. We'll be looking to improve some of those automatic openers. But the steel doors themselves, you can also include the bank of doors over by the behind the fireplace setup that as you lead out into the terrace. Hopefully we had some fun on the terrace over the weekend, but we were looking to improve those doors because none of them function correctly. They don't close correctly, they don't open well, they don't lock. And we did reach out to Fire Door Services to submit a quote to repair this work of all the mechanisms and all the doors. And the quote came in at $35,000. The Maintenance Committee and the Finance Committee reviewed the proposal and recommend proceeding with the vendor as an appropriate reserve expense. The Finance Committee said also, let's consider putting in $35,000 in the future for every 30 or 25 years so that the clubhouse mechanisms have a plan for replacement and funding to support it. And while you're at it, look at the steel doors throughout all the condo buildings as well. So I think it's an identified component that we recognize that should probably be reserved for in the future. So let's do it now, and then in the future we'll have the funding available.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Do I have a motion that we allocate this $35,000 for fire door services?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Any questions about the doors? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, Scott, you still get to go.
Yeah, there really is a Scott Newman show. I don't know if you know this, some of you know, there's a little YouTube video series that we had from COVID days called the Scott Newman Show. It's pretty fun. Okay, we're gonna shift to a GM report, and I wanna be thoughtful of the time. It's 2:45. At some of our meetings, we've had a good opportunity to recognize some staff in real time. You may have seen in the FYI, we've been identifying some dining services personnel as well. I wanted to recognize another department that's not always at this meeting and not always in the forward thought of all the residents. Kevin Bauer, you have a friend. Why don't you come on up to the front? I'm sorry to embarrass everybody. But as our friend arrives here, we really thought it'd be important to identify somebody who's been with us for quite a long time. Does everybody know this man's name? And Dean, where do they need to stand so that they are in front of the camera and not hiding behind me?
Right in front of Mrs. Porter.
Right in front of Mrs. Porter. So Mystery Man and Kevin Bauer, can you slide over here?
Sorry, Mark.
Does anybody not know this gentleman's name? Okay.
Not his name.
Yeah, we have Kevin Bauer. So this gentleman here, this illustrious man, he joined us actually in 2010 as the security manager through Allied Universal Security Services, and worked with us for about 10 years, not as a Smith Ranch employee, but with Allied, and then shifted to Smith Ranch in 2020. And Kevin, I've got a mic here for you, unless you already have one. Why don't you take it the rest of the way?
Better tell everybody his name.
His name is Mad. Mark Anthony David. Mark Anthony, a lot of O's, I see. Because you probably have spoken with him, or he's given you a call, or one way or another, maybe an email. He went through Guardsmark as they transitioned into Allied, and then he decided he wanted to work at Smith Ranch. So since 2020, for about 5 years, Mark has been now the department coordinator for maintenance. And he does an extremely, I think, difficult job. He's sort of it's a nerve center of our department. That's what it comes down to, because he handles so many incoming calls, emails, paper notices. He has a lot on his plate, and he deals with residents as far as whatever you may need and how to schedule. And he also takes care of a lot of other items in our department, such as turning your paper work requests into an actual electronic request that goes into our work request program, which will be transitioning sooner or later to North Star. So he has a lot of different strings attached to him, and gets pulled a lot of different directions. You may not see him very much, but believe me, he does an awful lot behind the scenes. And we're very, very happy and proud to have Mark.
Mark, you may not always be comfortable to share thoughts or so, but you have an opportunity to say hello if you'd like.
Well, yeah, I just want to thank you guys. Again, work behind the scenes, but I'm sure you've communicated with all of you at one point or another. I just want to say thank you for your patience with us. I thank you for the job security, because there is a lot of things going on, but yeah, I got a great team. Kevin is awesome too, and the guys. So thank you guys for just being patient with us with everything that goes around the property, and with me as well. And I thank you guys, just for having me. I love you.
All right, can we give Mark a round of applause again? Very cool.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Mark didn't know we were doing this until about an hour ago, so Mark, thank you for the fun on that. I got it, it's okay. Really, Mark's institutional knowledge too, by being an Allied Universal employee, has shared a lot of information along the ways. And I've also been hearing some great feedback about work orders being programmed at a better clip than maybe we have had in the past, and I think Mark has a lot to do with that, so kudos to you, Mark. There's a nasty rumor sometimes at Smith Ranch that it takes forever to get things done.
Yes,
Not a rumor, I hear. How dare you? No, I understand. But I also wanted to show the board's approving action items, and in fact, the board's even approving things in August, and they're getting completed within the month. This is the fire system replacement. That was $335,000. I'll speak to fire systems in a second, but that was completed in September. We expected it to have been completed on June 27th, and here we are on September 10th is when it got completed. And I would defer to the contractor on that. That's not a Smith Ranch Homes issue. Building 400 water heater system, $26,000 approved last month. That's been completed. Kudos to Kevin and team and working with the contractor, and the variable frequency drives as well. Another $14,000 HVAC component, that was repaired. Way back in August of last month, you approved a number of concrete repairs. There's been a lot of concrete repairs throughout the community. Building 200 was complete. Villas are ongoing. We're gonna move over to the 306 building area. The valet area says thereafter. They were there today to do some concrete work. But we're really happy to catch up and make some significant investments, $50,000, to address not just nuisance concrete issues, but truly tripping hazards throughout the property. So great job, Kevin and team, to get through there. On the other side, hey, accountability. In May 27th, we approved $8,000 for valet cart enclosures. Well, they're being shipped on September 12th, and they are leaving space on the calendar for mid-October. I can't catch a break with this team, but we do hope before the rains come, we'll have all new Valley cart enclosures and upholstery on the carts. And then the guest room renovation, the board approved $21,000 for phase 2 of the guest room improvements. Marianne Polewski, Dr. Jill Leverton, Kevin and I have been working together. We've interfaced our recent interior designer that we contracted with our architect. They're going to be working together to dial up a plan for the board to approve in the next month or two. But then because of the holidays, we don't want to take the guest rooms out of rotation. So we're planning a January 2026 construction and hopefully do it all in 1 month. So that's the plan there. Fire drills. So this has been an interesting flag I planted in April where I said every building's going to have a fire drill in 2025. Darn it. Well, we did building 100 on May 22nd. Good job. Then June and July was canceled due to our power outage and the system being offline. And then we tried building 200 on August 28th. And oops, this is why we test the fire system. It didn't make the audible noises that we thought. It was reporting, but it didn't work well for you for a fire drill. So we're still sticking to the 4th Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. And if you live in building 300, maybe after this you can come to the MODIS presentation, but September 25th we're gonna have a fire drill, and we're expecting things to go off without a hitch. Right, Kevin?
Right.
All right. Convergent, that's the contractor that we're working with. This oops should be Convergence's whoops. But to catch up and to really hold accountable on that goal, October 23rd, we're gonna redo building 200 and 400 at the same time. November, we're gonna do building 600 in the clubhouse, and then December, the 4th Thursday is Christmas, and I don't think we wanna do that. And the villas are a little interesting anyways on how we organize a fire drill there. It's not as easy as the condos. We're gonna do something for the villas, but we really still hope by the end of the year we're going to get that taken care of. This is not live, this is a screenshot. We had another challenge in the parking area, specifically related to our bicycles. So this is not a long-term project, but I just wanted to show you that we are tired of being tired. And to expect a different result, you gotta do something different. So we did install some local wireless connected cameras in and around the bike areas. So that area is now under surveillance. And we included some signage. And I know we wanna be careful, or we wanna strike a nice tone with not signage everywhere, but letting people know that the activities are being monitored. And we hope even just that might dissuade somebody from being a little sticky in the area. One of the areas that I noticed though while I was in the parking or the bicycle rack area was I noticed some sand toys parked over by a bicycle, and that's okay, but really we try to keep those areas clear. And then there was a little, what do we call this? Golf cart bag holder. So if you own these items, if you can just keep an eye on that, we try to keep that area clean as much as possible, so please keep an eye on that. Finally, July 14th. July 14th. I'm late for that already. October 14th, I'm gonna do another connection point. I did this the first 3 months of my time here at Smith Ranch. I'm doing this in the next 3 months. And really this is an opportunity just to drop in. There's no agenda, no curriculum, no PowerPoints. It's just me with some donuts and coffee, just chit-chatting for you to learn a little bit about me, Smith Ranch Homes, questions and feedback you might have. And I really do encourage you to show up. I think we had about 15 people the last time, and he gave me some nice ideas to run with and also some challenges that I knew I could address pretty quickly. The last time I presented this, I said I like baseball. So I figured if you're looking to try to get to know me, I included a picture of oysters. There's probably only one person at Smith Ranch Homes that can eat more oysters than I can, and I don't think he's here. But I know there's one person who, even if I try to give these away, wouldn't even take an oyster, Glenn Phillips. So he's a cheap oyster date, but Win Black is probably the only one I've ever met that can take more oysters than me. But we can talk more about that if you show up, not at July 14th, but October 14th. So that is my report, Glenn, and I will pass it back to the board.
And Win watches it in 1981 every month, I can tell you. We move on now. As we all know, our good friend and wise counsel, Tom Myrtleson, is resigning from the board for some good reasons, effective next week, October 1st. And in so doing, we have appointed Charlene Harvey to replace him, and we're very excited about that. She brings some real understanding of board work and a lot of successes in her long-term career. So what we're doing now is Tom has been asked by Barbara Ager, who was chair of the landscape committee, if he would take over chair of the landscape committee. Tom is a master gardener, has been chair of the landscape committee, I think, for 2 years, Tom, and will be a wonderful addition to the landscape committee. And Barbara's going to stay on. She's going to work the garden, and this was at Barbara's request. That we were fine with Barbara staying on and Tom helping out as a member, but she requested that. So we want to, I need a motion to put Tom into the chair position at the landscape committee, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Tom, you want to discuss?
Well, just to amplify, as a way of background, over the summer, the landscape committee had 2 resignations, so we were down to 5 people. And Barbara had been scouting around. She contacted a relatively new resident, a neighbor of mine, Sally Lindsay, who attended one of our meetings, and she will go on the committee. So Barbara was looking for someone else to join the committee. When she heard that I was resigning, she thought, well, there's an appropriate candidate. So I was happy to do it. And as I said, I'm continuing on but in a reduced capacity here at the ranch.
I told Tom this morning in our executive meeting that I was going to be calling on him, even though he's not on the board. He's got some good ideas on property monetization and a lot of other things that were in the hopper. So Tom will not be going away. But his first love is the landscape. So he's back with his, well, maybe his second love. I guess Sandy was your first love, right? Okay, so
Yes.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So Tom is now the chair. Actually, it won't be until October 1st because he can't be a liaison and chair at the same time. So anyway.
Thank you.
We have one more. This action item is actually a placeholder to appoint Charlene Harvey as a board officer. She will be, we've already done that, the corporate secretary, but we don't need a motion on this, we've already done it, but I just want to communicate that Charlene will continue as the, on the enhancement committee, and she will also be board liaison. Do we need a vote on that, Scott?
Not on that.
Not on that. She will have appreciation, landscape, and maintenance effective October 1st. So we'll vote on that next month. So this is just for communication purposes only.
Glenn, just to
Yeah.
clarify, we're asking the board to approve her board liaison assignments effective October 1 to those 3 committees: appreciation, landscape, and maintenance.
Okay, we can do that then. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I so moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Now we have we are forming a technology review group. And in this one, we've got kind of a different situation. We're going to have 3 staff members in this group and they'll be appointed by Scott. And we're gonna have 3 resident members, people who have been involved in our technology issues all along as residents. And so we need to vote on this. We'll have Richard Drake, Ernie Simard, and Dennis Porter. Like I say, they've all been involved in the past. Scott, do you want to talk about the staff members in this?
Yeah, this is pretty self-serving, but the charter calls for a staff member to be a chairperson. And right now, the goal is to have our pending administration manager be the chairperson. But until that person arrives at Smith Ranch Homes is ready to go, I'll serve as that chair in the short-term basis. And then I'll be asking, surprise or not surprise, Daria and Izzy as finance manager and communications coordinator. I think it'd be really important to have them join us as well too. So I think that core group of Richard, Ernie, and Dennis, and me temporarily, and Daria and Izzy will be a great core group to look at technology on the front and the back side of Smith Ranch Homes.
Did you purposefully leave Isabel out?
No, I do call her Isabel at work, and I don't think she likes that. Because I said that's what your mother gave you as a name, but I said Izzy verbally. So Daria, Izzy, and Scott will be the staff side. But I do ask the board to appoint Richard, Ernie, and Dennis.
Okay, we need to vote on that then. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll move.
You get a second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, shame on me for not also pointing out, Gary was looking for more things to do, and I think there was an idea that charter also calls for the board to designate a board liaison. And I think there's some relief coming to you from the enhancement fund long run. So, Gary, I think we're looking to add you also to that roster.
Okay. So, enter that into the motion. So, we have a motion and second. All in favor of those additions?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, I think Scott's back on stage with the trash compactor lift.
You know, I say this lovingly. I think it's Tom the trash man had signed up for this one.
Oh,
So
that's right, Tom took that one over.
Yes, I volunteered this morning. Kevin brought this to our attention at the maintenance committee last week, and we have a garbage compactor at building 115, and the lift to give it to the garbage company to take it away. We had it installed in 2010. As you know, we just purchased a new truck and a lift, but that has to be then compacted and then put into the garbage disposal company. In any case, the interior has been rusted and rotted and so forth. It's dangerous. And even though we had anticipated not replacing it until 2030, we need to do some things now. So as an interim step, a repair has been proposed for both the compactor and the lift. Total cost of $12,221. And we would expect this then to continue on in good service, but we would expect that we'll have a reserve item to cover its final replacement at the appropriate time. So with that, I move that we spend $12,221 to hire superior equipment to do this refinishing of the compactor and lift.
Okay, do I give a second? All of a sudden I got 2 seconds. Any discussion on that trash compactor? Tom, the trash compactor man.
yeah, just to clarify, this is an operating expense versus a reserve expense.
Okay.
But we're going to look to reserve this in the future.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We are gonna be changing the bus transportation schedule based on some feedback we're getting about the traffic back and forth to Novato. And Karen, I think you be taking us through that.
Sure, as Glenn mentioned, based on feedback from our residents, the concern was that the Novato route was mostly on Mondays, and they were having a very difficult time with doctor's appointments only on Mondays. So the schedule was re-examined, and then we've shifted several of the routes to go to Novato on days other than Monday as well. So without going into when is the shuttle going on which day, there will be a new shuttle schedule published, increasing the number of routes to Novato. And thank you to our residents for bringing this up to us.
Comment three.
Oh, is there a comment here?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm sorry, I guess there's a comment period.
Yeah, it is.
That will be posted, for your
So
comments.
if you don't like the new schedule,
Okay,
Yeah, I think the spirit here is anytime there's a substantive change on operating rules or just operations, it's best to post this. This is not a 30-day comment period for a policy, but it's a 2-week comment period that we're gonna post for the community, for you to provide your feedback, and then we'll return this back to the board for final approval in October.
sorry about that, it was on page 2 and I didn't get that. So, I move that we, accept, a comment period for the shuttle schedule change.
do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. This has to do with the Smith Ranch Scholarship Advisory Group, the Scholarship Fund Advisory Group. Marcy Leach is in charge of that. And we have, in the rules, it says we can have a maximum of 3 people on that scholarship committee. Well, Wendy resigned, Wendy, start to say Wendy Bauer, Wendy Dowdy resigned a couple of months ago, so we only have 1 person. We have somebody else who expressed an interest, and we recommended the board for her membership, and that's Kathy Hardy. And so, do I have a?
I'm covering this.
Oh, you're covering. I'm sorry. I thought I was.
Okay. The Smith Ranch Homes Scholarship Fund Advisory Group, it's a mouthful, is appointed by the board and serves at the board's pleasure. And it has a maximum of 3 members, and currently we only have 1, and that's Marcy Leach, who is the chairperson. Kathy Hardy has expressed interest in the group, and so we'll be recommending that she be appointed. We had another resident who had expressed interest as well, but she has withdrawn her interest. And so we're asking the community today if any of you would be interested in being that 3rd person on the scholarship committee. You know, there's such a lot of interest in the scholarship program. So I'm sure there are people that would be willing to come forth and serve on the committee, which is supported with a staff liaison, the HR generalist, a board liaison. So there's a lot of support, and the group meets only a few times a year. It's not an every month type of committee. So if any of you would like to serve, please let Marcy Leach know, because we would like to have at least our 3 residents on the committee. So I move to approve Kathy Hardy as a member of the Scholarship Fund Advisory Group.
Do I get a second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Dean, I'm sorry that I picked up the gauntlet on that one. I had my name down, but I forgot that we changed that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Now, I do have this next one, right? Okay, all right. We have a nominating committee recommendation that came out of last week's nominating committee, and that is to the Finance Committee. We had a resignation, and that from Greer Goldman. So the nominating committee is recommending Terry Pettengill to take position on the Finance Committee, fill the current vacancy. So do I have a motion on that?
I'll move that.
Moved, any second?
I'll second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Just to Glenn, if I may.
I do want to finish this.
I'm sorry.
Finish this
It's,
Just a question, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
don't, I voted for him. I don't know Terry. Does someone have some background? And the finance committee is very important, and I'd be curious as to his background.
I do know that Terry has an extensive background in marketing. He had his own marketing company in San Francisco for many years, worked for 2 or 3 other marketing companies before he went into that business. Jerry says he has more extensive information on that.
I asked Terry to, before I recommended him for the Finance Committee, to give me his resume, and it would blow the socks off of you. He has many, many years of strategic planning for major corporations, and then formed his own firm and had a business in strategic planning, which is a pretty difficult area for multiple corporations. So if you ever watch him take notes, it's phenomenal. And then he summarizes, gives you a report the next day. It's just amazing. So he is very good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been on several meetings with Terry Pettengill, and I can endorse it.
And I'll just add, we invited Terry to come to a meeting before he expressed his interest, and he's still putting his interest forward. So good for him.
After hearing you as chair, he did that? Yeah. Okay. All in favor of Terry Pettengill joining the Finance Committee? Oh, no, I need a motion. Or do I already
No, I
have?
already moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, Dean's gonna take us through something in the art area.
Yes, we've had one of Yoshi Haishi's art paintings in the lobby of Building 400, and it has been sold, so, which is good for Yoshi. So he has given us a replacement. And so the Architectural Committee and the Ad Hoc Renovation Committee have both approved that we hang this painting titled Air, and it will be a loan to replace that painting in Building 400. So I so move, we accept it.
Is that a motion? Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on Yoshi's painting? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, now we'll have open forum. Any subject that's on your mind. We want the residents to feel totally comfortable to come to the board with anything that they feel is something that should be addressed or something that they can share to the rest of the residents. So, do we have any? Okay, we have Marcy.
I appreciate Dean saying all that you said, Dean, but I just wanted to say one other thing because
Put
I don't
a
know
little
how many,
closer to your mouth.
I don't know how many people actually know who Kathy Hardy is. And she's very new, but she's very wonderful. And then I also have another, which is I have a bunch of envelopes in case anybody.
Marcy, we can't hear you. You're gonna have to hold it closer to your mouth.
There we go, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, I wanted to, of course, now Kathy's got the burden of, but this is Kathy Hardy, and she is fairly new, and she's wonderful in every way, and, she actually provided the flowers for the reception, so, out of her generosity. And then the other thing is that I have a bunch of envelopes, just in case people are due earlier for their tax returns, to know that your scholarship money goes for your taxes, you can claim it.
Thank you, Marcy. Kathy, would you mind standing? And I know it's embarrassing, but so we can all recognize who you are on the campus. Thank you, Kathy. You'll read.
We'll do the same for the third person. when it comes
Just scared them all.
Kathy, you'll really work your feel. You'll really have a good time working with Marcy, and it's such a great cause that all of us feel good about. Okay, anything else from the residents?
Actually, I wonder if Scott could give everybody a little update on what that construction is outside this building.
The construction outside this building, as you're looking at the caution tape over there, okay. I believe it is related to an irrigation leak that was in the process of being repaired, but I have about a 90% confidence rating on that.
No, that's true.
Oh, this is a test.
You mean they don't check with you on every ditch they?
Yeah, no, not every ditch, every mountain, not every molehill.
I am disappointed.
I went by there and there was a security guard there who was on the scene. The water was pouring out and he was on the phone, so I thought he was calling you.
No, I'm aware of that. I didn't know that it was that exact spot, so thank you. Since my mic is on, I just want to take the chance. I decided to not include in my GM report, but I want to say it now. I received 3 emails today alone that were scams. I received 2 phone calls today that were scams, and I get them regularly every day. So I just want to use it as an opportunity. We could say this every board meeting, every town hall meeting, every FYI. But I do ask the residents, if you're ever uncomfortable about a circumstance and you just don't know up from down on what's happening about something, there is no shame to reach out to me personally or any manager. There's confidential conversations around here too, but we also want to help if you're ever in a place where you just feel like you're not sure if this is a legitimate response or not. Contact a board member as well too, but I just see the uptick on this, and I get police reports and news releases all the time of people, just particularly seniors, not through any shame other than just opportunity that people take advantage of seniors, that I've seen an uptick, and I just want to put a PSA out there to please let us know what we can do to help.
Okay, that's good message. I want to say something about the upcoming election. Right now we have 3 openings on the board for next year. We have 2 interest forms in at this point, one of whom is an incumbent. And we would like to see a real election, have it be competitive for the candidates, go through the presentation form to the residents. And I'm making an appeal, actually, for you to consider this. There are many, many, many of you who are quite qualified, and you can make a contribution to Smith Ranch, a valuable contribution, and you can feel good about that, but also it's very rewarding personally. I've been on the board, Dean and I will be going off, we've been both on the board for 4 years, and it's very rewarding. So we hope that we can get more applicants to run for the board. Dean, you want to say anything about that? Did you say no?
No, it is a very rewarding experience, and I think I'm going to miss it. Every meeting we have, there are new, interesting things that we need to learn about and discuss, and I've enjoyed being liaison to 5 committees and seeing what they're doing, and it's very rewarding work, so I'd recommend it.
Nothing else? Nothing from anybody?
I actually want to piggyback off of Scott's about scams. We have a presentation on October 24th. It's a Friday. It'll be at 2 p.m. in this room, a presentation specifically on scams. So I hope to see you all there.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, we have
We have another
Nancy Monterosa.
Yeah, I want to say a big thank you to the staff and the admin who put on the Friends and Family event Saturday. I've talked to so many people who were attended who just thought it was wonderful. Really, really fun, great idea. Thank you.
Great band.
I know admin was just identified, but Monica and Sarah, you just did an incredible job. You knocked a home run. Thank you.
Thank you, it was very good.
Heard so many good things about it. Nancy and I were out of town. Anything else? Well, thank you for coming, everybody. I now declare this meeting adjourned.